Hey everybody, it's Thursday, July 28th. I got two different subjects, but they all fall under my favorite category. It's all about the money. Belief is the tool. Okay? First one, emergency measures taken to dispose of Kansas cattle carcasses. Excuse me. I ran out of water, so please excuse me for the dry coughs and all the yawning and all this good stuff. Usually a cool glass of water will wake me up. But here we go. I'm going to read the article and then break it down for you. Originally reported in June, thousands of cattle in Kansas died due to heat stress. At least 2,117, according to some cattle feeders. A combination of winds disappearing, temperatures rising above 100 over the weekend, humidity spikes, and because it got hot so early, some of the cattle had not fully shed their winter coats. The cattle carcasses are being buried in landfills and unlined graves, a non-typical maneuver in which the carcasses are disposed of. Normally, the dead cows would be converted into pet food and fertilizer products. According to the state and cattle feeders, they had to take emergency measures. Some are now calling for changes to Kansas's meat industry. Okay, now I brought this up because it's nothing to do with Texas, my Lone Star state. Oh, excuse me. But as everybody knows, somewhere down the line, there's a link to this, to where it's more than likely a copycat play off of something that my state of Texas is doing. For right now, it looks something like what's going on by the CCP, by China's CCP, and I'll get to that. But first, at least 2,117 cattle, with the combined winds disappearing, temperatures rising above 100 over the weekend, humidity spikes, and it got here so early that it happened during the time that the cattle had not fully shed their winter coats. Okay, I've never seen a cattle with a winter coat before, so I find that very speculative. But something that caught my attention was, all of this stuff takes place. No price was mentioned so far. 2,117 cattle. It's more than just beef section, the tenderloin. It's, legs, the head of the cattle, whole mess of other stuff. So it's it's more than just brisket. So I'd prefer to know the cost of that cattle, of that 2,000 cattle, before accepting anything, Again, some of the cattle had not fully shed their winter coats. That's still a problem. By late July, there's a side of me that's kind of speculative towards that also. Oh, ski. The cattle carcasses are being buried in landfills and unlined graves, a non-typical maneuver in which cattle are disposed of. Okay, the only difference that I see out of that is the difference between CCP China and all those pigs that they buried alive. And that's assuming that was in China. Technically, they own quite a bit of acres, about 300,000 acres of pig farms here in the States. Dispersed in 6 different countries. So it's quite possible that those pigs are being killed even here in the States, and we are forced to pay outrageous prices for ham, bacon, and all this good stuff that's brought on by pigs because of now how limited it is. And I'm assuming that that's what's going to be expected out of the cattle after 2,000 of it just got, supposedly they all died and they all had to be buried in a landfill. Okay? Not the normal procedure. The normal procedure, normally the dead cows would be converted into pet food and fertilizer products. So, why were they buried in a landfill? Well, if it's all about the money and belief is the tool, no differently than what I'm saying, it seems like the normal just isn't as profitable for these cow feeding ranchers. You know, so they figure, why even bother? Despite the fact that pet food and fertilizer products is profitable. So it's more than likely they're going to rely on their governor to sue the government for agricultural economic rescue. Okay? A voucher or a welfare check, if I could get away with saying it. But whatever the case, it would explain the last segment of this article. According to the state and cattle feeders, they had to take emergency measures. That's all that it was, emergency measures. We had to bury those cows. And you have to believe us that they were already dead. Some are now calling for changes to Kansas's meat industry. Changes to Kansas meat industry. Or any meat industry as far as I'm concerned. I see the trick of the tail out of this. And I'm pretty sure you guys too. Because what? Cattle emergency declaration? You know, like the way that the invasion declaration here in Texas was about? Concerning illegal migrants? Asylum seeking migrants. You know, some invasion declaration supporters were collecting $700,000 for picking up carcasses of those migrants that supposedly died. They found them already dead due to heat exhaustion. Yeah. It's just a little bit, you know, it's just a little, in fact, sometimes it's a lot. But in my eyes, it's all about the money. Belief is the tool. They had to do this. They believed that it was for the better. Instead of trying to make a profit through fertilization and pet foods, they had to just disperse all the cattle that dehydrated and died, as far as you know. So, next thing we know, a check is going to be signed. A suit. Well, it's going to start with a lawsuit. So everybody keep your eyes out in the media for the lawsuit coming from Kansas. Because the state isn't going to pay for it. The state says they're in trouble, no different than those cattle ranchers, however many there were. According to the report, 2,000 were dead. Each cattle ranch, you know, can handle 1,000. You know, it's not just a couple of hundred. And even if it is, that's 10 ranches. If let's say it's a couple of hundred, 200 each ranch, 2,000 of them died. So that's 10 ranches. How many ranches are there across the entire state of Kansas? You see where I'm going with this? Only a select few are going to be getting paid, while the rest are getting the middle finger. And it's all going to be not out of the state's pocket, but out of the government's pocket. The government that takes our taxes. Moving on to the second. It's all about the money. Belief is a tool. They're going to sue them, and you are going to believe that it was okay. Those poor ranchers. Moving on to the second one, okay? Here we go. This time now. Moving on to the second one. Biden's border policy to blame for staff shortages, says ex-border official. This is coming out of a website called the National Desk, which as far as I could tell is just nothing but bitch for profit. Bitch for the ratings. Bitch and complain for ratings. That's all that I saw out of this one particular interview. Okay. Former acting commissioner Mark Morgan claims Biden tells one of many lies that everybody that breaks into our country illegal is in violation of rule and law are still good, upstanding people simply looking for a better life. You know, it's a lie, and it's one of a bajillion gajillions. Okay, and the staff shortages at the ports of entry are not due to retention or recruitment. No, but the Biden's administration open border policy. Okay. The entire report, in my opinion, is nothing but bitching and complaining. This is my comment. And the prime example of that was talking the facts and the articles that oppose the facts with counter opinions. All right. And here's where I'm breaking it down to explain what I'm saying. The former acting commissioner tells many lies, and that everybody that breaks into our country illegally is that it's an upstanding person looking for a better life, but it's not true because it's in violation of rule and law. Ergo, 11 of those 53 deceased that were found in the back of a trailer truck, 11 of them were felons. They had felonies against them, repeated. They came here across the border many times and all that stuff. And yet, under the Republican command, you know, not one bit of the law, you know, that border patrol stuff that's short-staffed was used to capturing these felons. Okay? The open door policy is what makes all these migrants come in, and therefore we don't have enough cops. Despite the fact that they're up there, that we have border patrol, when not interfered with the law, that are capturing these douchebags, that we have state troopers inside our border that are not being interfered with by the governor, doing nothing but data processing on already surrendered asylum seekers, despite the fact that we've got state troopers, despite the fact that we've got Border Patrol law enforcement, Customs and Border Patrol, despite the fact that we've got the regular law enforcement and Homeland Security, sorry for the yawning, you know, who are all doing their job. You know, well, at least until they're interfered with by the governor. But you look at West Texas, where Beto O'Rourke is running things, and the law's doing their job. They're capturing traffickers. They're capturing felons. They're rescuing victims. They're rescuing the trafficked. Drugs and weapons are getting busted all the time over there. And occasionally they're getting busted here on this side and to the south of Texas, where Beto is not in charge. So when you hear this guy saying it's not due retention or recruitment, yeah, no, we got that. Because everybody that's recruited is actually doing a damn good job until the governor interferes with it. But it's due to the open border policy, which technically, if there was an open border policy, there would already be people, there wouldn't be any need for sneaking in. There wouldn't be a need for any of the migrants to be creeping in and putting their lives in danger in a tractor trailer where they can bake. You know. Okay. And I just went through the entire article. The TV interview, the internet interview, shows this very same Mark Morgan using the same Trump words. They're rapists, they're thugs, they're smugglers, they're traffickers, and it's every single one of them, and they're all coming in, and blah blah blah. I ignored all of that because I'm sticking to the main points. In fact, that this guy is literally counteracting what he's saying. There's a staff shortage, but it's not due retention or recruitment. It's due to the open border policies, which technically, if we had them in full operation, there would be no need for smuggling migrants in. They could all just sign up and file for asylum. It's that simple. So what's the purpose for all of this ruckus, this complaining? It's all about the money. Belief is the tool. He complains. Everybody that's on his side complains. They all report to the governor. The governor then sues for money. The money is then come in, and all these great checks. In one case, $700,000 is spent on the people that was supporting. And even still, not even those that are supporting, just those that are in charge of something. So this Mark Morgan person, who's a former acting commissioner, he's no longer in the Border Patrol organization. At least that's what we're led to believe by this article. Apparently he's going to be getting a check too. I don't think so. I'd like to know, after some kind of another check is filed in the name of countering open border policies, I'd like to know how much Morgan actually got. And I'm willing to bet you real money he's one of the fools that followed. He's not getting a damn thing. He's over here repeating the same garbage that Trump already stated, something that's already been debunked. And he's just going off with a bunch of accusations. This guy's either getting a check from somewhere. Maybe he's already got the check, so that's the reason why he's up saying it. But I'm willing to bet real money whether he did already get paid to say it or not. He's nowhere near getting a check from the governor. After suing our excuse me, that was on my other phone. After suing our government for money to support them, unless Mark Morgan, and this is something that maybe somebody could share, is Mark Morgan a landowner, a rancher? Does he have estates over there? Does he own estates? I don't think he lives there, but I'm wondering if he has an estate somewhere on the border where a good portion of a good equally shared $700,000 check in whatever county he's in, could get him a pretty good coin. Maybe to put a new pool in his mansion or his estate. Who knows? All I know is that everybody out here is supposed to believe him, because belief is the tool, and it's all about the money. Because, well, it's not about patriotism or anything. It's all about the cash. That's all that it ever is. Money is what's making the world go round. You will literally kill cattle. You will literally not perform autopsies on migrants that you claim are already dead for that money. It's the reason why you put it in a safe. It's the reason why you'll shoot somebody for it. Money is the same straw that you use to snort with. And it's all based off of what you believe to be the truth of it. Patriotism, drug addiction, because you're disabled. Your cattle died. 2,000 cattle died across the state, and they all had to be buried in a landfill. None of it was going to be turned into pet food or fertilizer. It's all about the money, and you're led to believe that it's for the better. Not even that it's for safety concern. There's nobody in that article said that it was to prevent bacteria, fungi, virus traveling, and all this stuff, because all of that says that they'd have to disprove that it's a hoax. they'd have to take back the claim that it's a hoax. It's all about the money. Belief is the tool. I've given examples of it. Here in Texas, I have no doubt that it's the same kind of tactic that's used for cattle in Kansas, for sweet corn and green beans in South Florida, and everywhere else that we're seeing. Honestly, I think the government should deny them any more checks unless autopsies are performed. I think the government should deny those South Floridian guys. Again, sweet corn, green beans from one farmer, Alger Farms, that provides those two food ingredients for the entire East Coast. That's what the article says. That's what the record shows. And he says the leader, Mr. Alger himself, the farmer, says that he's been struggling and trying to get this stuff out there and survive for the past 10 years, from as far back as the Obama administration. Yeah. I think every government should not allow farmers like Alger Farmers to receive any kind of federal income unless they can prove it with the income tax forms. Unless they can prove it with well-censored banking notes, blotch out the account number except for like the last four digits, so the government can go through the IRS and confirm that it's them. Show the budget show their banking budget. Show how much is actually going back to the business to stay alive from as far back as the Obama years. And the same thing with the cattle. I think the cattle companies should present every single medical doctrine or cattle whatever count to prove that 2,117 of them died from heat exhaustion. I want to see them with photos of that winter coat that they supposedly grow. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. I've never heard of cattle being able to do that, but it wouldn't surprise me given the fact that it's them living amongst nature. But I like for everybody that does this crap, because it's an obvious heist. It's an obvious scheme. My Texas Governor Greg Abbott is the king of them all. Suing the government for $4 billion for the border wall, and yet every single interview, every single testimony, no matter what side they're on, whether they're interviewing the migrants or interviewing the cops or the governor or the county commissioner or the lawyers or the county mayors, the county lieutenant governors and all this other stuff, in every county doesn't have a wall anywhere built up. They've got razor wire, which I'm almost positive costs far less than any wall. They've got, and that's about it. Razor wire and just a couple of CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, CBP in different locations. I'd like to see the proof of that. I really wish the government would say, show me the physical evidence that that's what this money's going to, and I'll sign another check for you. Show me the physical evidence that there is a wall. Show me the physical evidence that 2,000 cattle couldn't shed their fur, and that there was no water available. Kansas has water producers no differently than any of us here in Texas or any other part of the states. Show me where they died from the heat, and that you had no way of helping them. You had no water hose to water them down. You had no shelter to shelter them. Because I understand 2,117, that's a lot of cattle. But how many ranches are actually suffering from that? And if it's only like 2, well, then definitely it's going to be easier to spot whether or not you have cattle, shade for the cattle, water for the cattle. But if it's scattered across the state, then it's going to be very easy to see. It's going to be very difficult, but it's going to be very easy to see that you really don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars for whatever that cattle's worth per each ranch. I say show the evidence. Do not just take the word of the state or the state lawyer or the governor or whoever that it is that's going to press charges against the government to take that money and disperse it any which way they please to whoever they feel, which is only going to be their people, or what the governor believes is to be their people. It's all about the money. Belief is the tool. All right, make us believe that it's worth that money. Don't just go out there and saying we're in danger. That one farmer from Alger Farmer, he was doing the interview in front of 2 or 3 tractors that were fresh and everything. And even if they weren't, let's say they were old and used tractors, it's the simple fact that he's not spending a lot of money to begin with to harvest the crops. So for him to say, well, I need more money, I need tons of money, I need a break. No, you can't do that. And then to top it all off, on South Florida, stolen land out of the indigenous population. Same thing with Kansas. The removal of the Caddo and the Comanches for these ranches that they can't even keep hydrated. Hell no, don't support them. Hell no. I think the government should have every single restriction or demand for physical proof that there is a need to sign a check to give to that state. Because otherwise, this is just BS. It's Greg Abbott styled BS. It's the Texas governor's swindle through legal means and policies, and swindling the federal government out of our tax-paying dollars to infrastructure that goes to money that goes to our infrastructures. It's just that simple. So I'm coming up to half an hour. I'm going to give it a close right now. But yeah, it's all about the money. It's just belief is the tool. If you believe them, they get that thing. But you can't believe them without the physical evidence, okay? You can't believe them without them proving that there's an actual threat, that there's an actual condition or that leads to an emergency. Otherwise we're just hearing these people that are bitching and complaining and falsely accusing and all this stuff, and then later on demanding that they get money. And you believe that it's for the right reasons. Yeah, well, maybe you believe it. I sure as hell don't. But that's beside the point. The thing is, this is just the common sense on common grounds. A guy with a GED, a rideshare driver with a GED is the only proof of an education, can see through this crap. And this is for you to know, or at least to be reminded, because some of you out there already know, because of the simple fact that that's what this show is for, just to remind, just to take a step back and see it. Because everybody else is going to be looking at the news and going, oh my God, there's a crisis. It's not a crisis. It's a scheme. You can see it no differently than I can. And you come to this show as a reminder to remind you that even you can point it out, as sure as this guy can. This is Chris with Chris is Coming. Good luck. I hope you don't come across the panic and the frantic, but the reasonable that will listen. This is Chris with Chris is Coming, signing out. Take care.